Welcome, Commanders, to Atlacat Games. Bringing you guys to 10v10. We're playing with the Hungarians, and we're playing once again on Lenina. This is a very interesting matchup we're bringing you guys. Once again, it's pretty long, so go ahead and grab yourselves a drink and make yourselves comfortable. We'll be together for about an hour or so. And you guys get the idea. We're playing on the same part of the map. Once again, we got to capture this tree line so we can push up to here. This is a very close and intense match with good and positive trades. I would say this is probably also our best performance too, despite the fact that, you know, our team did come up short on this one. Still was an excellent game, and I would like to share it with you guys since we don't hide away from our losses here. You know, win or lose, we're going to play our hearts out. So we're making up our way up to the tree line. He's bringing up a Stuart tank. Very light and squishy for the units it's going up against. It's going up against our commander, our Panther, and our Tiger tank. Still scores a kill on the AT gun. Good kill on his part. It's bringing up a Firefly. It's engaging our Panther. And we knock out the Firefly and the Stuart tank. Another Firefly has come up. He's already attacking us quite aggressively on the tree line. Clearly the other player understands that he has to capture this tree line if he expects to push down to our point, just as much as we need to capture this tree line in order to push to his point. We're able to push him right out, and we move in our tanks into the tree line. They take out our Pack 40, and we're moving up our tanks and infantry as the tree line falls into our hands 100%. He brings in a fighter. Not actually sure what the objective was there. I think he was still trying to attack the AT gun, despite the fact that he had killed it. And our Panther gets knocked out by AT gun he had hidden in the tree line, allowing the Firefly to retreat, and at the same time blinding our Tiger tank. So good kill on his part. Now, as soon as the match started, we were quite aware that we weren't going to be able to push towards the center. So the objective became going around the flank and capturing this tree line. The problem is that they have the elevation of this hill. And as long as they control the elevation of this hill, it's going to be very difficult for us to get to this forest line. And even if we're able to get in, it just becomes a hassle because he can put whoever is playing on this side over here can put anything on this side to block us here. So it's very important to capture this hill, especially anybody that's playing on this side of the map. And if they have control of this hill, which is very close to the respawn point, it's very difficult to hold. They have a good elevation on everything. And if they can even shoot towards this area here, which can affect this area down here. He's trying to block our Tiger. We decide to fall back. He still has that Firefly, which is quite dangerous. And in this deck, we don't have as much heavy armor. So the fact that we lost this Panther so early in the match was very devastating. It wasn't ending, but it definitely hurt. It's not like our last match where we had almost endless amounts of T-34s. We're very limited on the amount of heavy tanks we have here, and can't trade as many as we would like. So it's very important to preserve them as much as we can until phase B and C, where we can start throwing in some of the Panzer tanks. As you can see, his Firefly is trying to engage. Good firepower. Not as good on armor, but the firepower is definitely a bit superior to the Tiger tank. Just a bit. And he decides to retreat the Firefly out of reach. We're bringing up a Turin since we lost the only powerful command tank we had, which is the Panther, and now we're relying on the Turin, which is a pretty weak tank. I only use them as a wave, especially to support my infantry. But in general, they can get basically knocked out by anything. Most people don't play with them. We just lost actually our Tiger tank. Speaking of losing something we shouldn't lose, the Tiger tank was knocked out by either the AT gun or one of these Fireflies. Our AT gun over here, the Stug, starts engaging the Fireflies, knocks one out. He's moving up an AT gun. Out in the open, we decide to fall back on the Stug just because it's already taking some damage. He's also doing the same thing with his Firefly. And so far, we've traded a Firefly with the Tiger. Not the worst trade, but not the best either. And we probably could have gotten more out of the Tiger tank than what we actually got out of it. Sucks, but it is what it is. Let's move into reconnaissance unit to take a look. We still have the Turin and some infantry. So not everything is doom and gloom. He decides that he can go ahead and try to press forward again. And he sets his Firefly to fire on the infantry. But despite that, he would still have a hard time pressing forward because of this stuck. As soon as we realize that, and it's nice and repaired, and has waited, we can go ahead and send it out. Still has a fire control over the road, even in the position it is right now. And his infantry assault basically falls apart immediately. One, because he sent in one half-track and one squad. Other half-track is hidden somewhere in here. And it was just blown away. As you can see, we have this much range. We decided to take out the reconnaissance unit because it's firing on our infantry. And this Stug right now is holding basically the entire line. Moving a machine gun. We have another Stug in case of an emergency or a breakthrough. Our machine gun is going to be in place here. Our Stug is still firing. He moves the mortar team that probably was in that half track forward for some reason. I'm guessing he wanted to fire them as close as he could, but he didn't have enough support and firing for it, and it got too close to the infantry, and they just knocked it out. They knock out the Stug. Let me bring up the Stug this way so we can have fire control on 3 separate sides. So by getting this knocked out, it gives them the ability to push a bit. But once we get this Stug here, we'll have a 2-sided prong on the road. Then we can move our Tiger tank or any other type of armored vehicle inside and keep an entire fire control around this entire area. And once again, we're fighting for another farmhouse. We just seem to love fighting for those. As you can see, the Stugs moving up. And our Stug tank can just barely fire on that machine gun. As you can see. And the goal is to get it as close as we can to that Firefly until we get in range over here. Now that our Tiger's in range, so is our Stug. We pick it off with the crew having to bail out, leaving the tank basically stranded. And the Tiger tank taps the kill. This anti-aircraft defense is very good. You can keep 1 or 2 in place and you can basically keep everything out of range. He's trying to launch a mortar attack. It's actually hanging up in the air. I wonder how that could be any stable. Our Stug tank is still across. Brings an 18 gun trying to pick it off, but we're moving our infantry as we're going to try to capture this small tree line here so we can move our infantry through and try to capture the entire line here. Launching a mortar barrage on his mortar. He brings up another Firefly. And the Tiger once again picks it right off. He notices the danger of the Tiger and the Stug, so he tries to neutralize it with smoke and some artillery rounds. Excuse me. Bringing in some off-map. Try to soften up that position. At the same time around the map, on other fronts, they're slowly starting to grind them down, which becomes the main problem, especially in the town. Just like in the last match, this entire town was a massive tank battle / battle, and it's developing again. And the problem we've run into, we've lost a couple points. Right now it's stabilized, but it ebb and flows the entire match. It was a close match. But I would still say it favored the Allies. This is a beat up T-34. And it gets knocked out by a Panther. We lose a Stug here on the right side, leaving the infantry here with no fire support. And we're going to launch an off map on the point as they bring up a Crusader AA gun. I guess he felt confident with the tank being knocked out here that he could do it, and maybe he was out of range, which he was, at least on the Tiger side of things. And he did guess correctly. He brings up a Cromwell. And it's up against Tiger tanks, though. Artillery barrage starts to suppress the point. But it's not out of range out of the Tiger when it moved up in this direction. But it's out of range now. Our range is only 2,000 meters. So we can only fire up to this point here. See? And that's our effective range. Moving up reconnaissance and infantry. So we're getting ready to also assault the point. We have at least held the line at this point and traded better than he has. So now we feel more confident that we can push forward. Our Tiger tank is just a menace on this tree line here. Firing in all different directions. It's got the command tank here. We got another command tank here. So our units are pretty pretty much ready for anything. We're pinning down his AT gun over there. And we flip the point. As you can see, it's pretty close to the spawn point. So the closer we get to it and closer to this tree line, the more difficult it's going to get since they can push more. He's got a Cromwell here to do some fire support. Disappeared. I was looking for it. Just disappeared out of nowhere. We move up the Panzer. Well, he brings up Crusader AA. And one of our turrets gets knocked out. Oh, yes. So we had called up some turrets, and they had been knocked out right here on this road. Because, as you can see, they still own the hill. So it's very dangerous to come down this way like that. And due to the fact that we were attacking, I didn't actually pay attention to the fact that this unit was still, I guess, driving down the highway. And he's got this small reconnaissance unit basically holding off the infantry that's moving forward. Despite the point being captured, it's still very vulnerable. He's still counterattacking. And he's trying to push. And this is a smart play on the other player's side here. Where's this hit? Yeah, this is some other player. He places an AT gun here and catches me off guard. As I continue my push, it was kind of late, and he takes out a commander and that Panzer. So we decided to try to correct it by hitting him with an artillery strike, or at least keeping it pinned, because we know there's going to be an armored push soon. We claimed this side of the forest. He knocks out that unit. And despite the fact that this point is still in our hands, we're vulnerable. For a moment, the match has turned due to mainly the fact that this point has been taken. We've pushed up forward, and everything else is pretty stagnant. So these 2 points are basically what's changing things right now. This one's very vulnerable since it's out in the open. And ours is also kind of vulnerable too because it's out in the open and close to the spawn point. So he can move as much armor as he needs to. The closer we get here, the more vulnerable we are. the closer he comes down, the more vulnerable he is to these vehicles here on the on this little tree line here. We brought up a Panther, so we're ready for any type of push. And the one thing we had prepared for was a slight ambush. I expected him to push through here and push these units back. So basically his own point was being used as an ambush. We decided to move the Panther while these units try to hold them off. Our mortars are going to try to take this AT gun because we're going to try to push eventually and counterattack him while he counterattacks us. So a counter to a counter. So you can see we're moving that Panther close to the other Panther that had been knocked out. Since we lost the command tank on this area, this Panther's on its own. Let's try to stop the infantry push over here since we're trying to capture everything. We did cause some of his units to surrender. Look how cool that is. They actually put their hands up. And now the Panther's in combat because now it's effectively in the ambush. And the units that he's sending in are not capable of taking it out unless he has some artillery or some AT gun hidden around somewhere. And here's an AT gun that he's trying to pull up. But our Panther once again pulls off another kill. Panther spots the other Cromwell. He's fired on it. He's trying to launch some airstrikes. His vehicle's falling back, so we're able to push it back. Our Panther goes out in the open. As we try to pursue it, but we realize we don't want to be as vulnerable because we still somewhat control the point, even though they're starting to overwhelm it, and we still have fire control over the sides. So worst case scenario, we can send another wave of infantry or some lower quality tanks in. But he is definitely pushing, and he has divided our forces now. So our push towards this side and controlling this entire tree line fails. Our infantry ends up surrendering. Traitors. Oh, a lot of them got killed, actually. I can see why they surrendered. And he captures the point again. They fought heroically, holding the point. And we decide we're going to go ahead and try another push into the this side of the forest. Well, we run into this issue here that this player here has AT guns and one of these, and you start seeing them pop up all over this side of the map, which is starting to play an effect here because now we're doing a 2v1. Now he's trying to push this way, but they've lost almost the entire town completely. And that, affects us because this is now bleeding into our sector. So our Panther starts engaging them on the hill. We lose a Stug. We're sending the turret in there for close fire support because we're seeing some infantry push up from that bush over here. He's trying to take out our Panzer. Start reinforcing the front here, and our Panther is basically what's holding the entire line because he's got AT guns, these self-propelled artillery / assault guns, and all we have is this Panther. And the infantry in these woods are pretty separated. Bringing up a commander since we really need it. Our anti-air gun is still keeping him away. And we're still trying to fight for this flank. Now this is an interesting unit. He brings this up to do some fire support. We're being basically attacked from all angles. We decided to redirect our fire towards that thing over there. And we take it out. Panther turns around again. Now that we have the commander on the ground. Fires up the hill. Hits the AT gun. As he tries to put smoke rounds for his tanks, infantry, anything he's moving up towards his sector. He brings one of these up here too. And this is here to contest the Panther. The Panther scores a kill on that AT gun. We lose more infantry in the woods. They're extremely vulnerable. There's no fire support here. We're just moving it slowly. Bringing up more infantry. We bring up an 80mm. And that vehicle right there is just shredding our poor infantry. Got these light AT guns. They're overlooking this pass here, just making it very difficult for my infantry to even just defend. We're taking heavy losses in this forest line. Launching another artillery strike as we know he's moving people in because he put that smoke screen in to keep them safe. Brings up another AT gun. We decide to pull back the Panther. And they're still pushing. We lose the Panther to a artillery strike. Very devastating, but we still have the road protected by the Tiger and the Stug. No matter what, that Panther was a huge loss. And having two Panthers destroyed in the same force is very devastating. So these lighter tanks are still worth less than the... Oh, the Turin actually scored that kill. Very cool. He realizes the threat of the Tiger, and he's trying to pick it off with artillery, just the same way he took out the Panther. And we tried our best to save our Tiger ace. Panzer tank is engaged in AT gun. And you can see creeping on our right hand side, we have this vehicles creeping into the forest line. Their objective is to clear these guys out, capture this line, and start pushing down. As you can see, they're pushing from this area here, the entire town, and the tree line here. And despite the front line being somewhat stable, there's a huge gap here. Losing this point here is what's costing us the match right now. And the fact that we're able to hang on to this point here is keeping it somewhat stable. If I can capture this here, we'll be able to tie the match for now. Unless somebody loses another point. But the pressure seems to be really happening on the center. While we have pressure too, we're pretty well set and equipped for it. We're bringing another Panther. since we expected a big push and we wanted to take out those vehicles. The road is pretty secure thanks to these vehicles here and the commander. We have good reconnaissance thanks to this guy here, so we can clearly see what's coming down the road. As you can see, there's two players here now. One's pushing here and one's pushing down. So it's 2v1 at the moment. But we have enough units on the map thanks to the fact that we've been able to trade very well. So we should be able to deal with anything that he's going to throw at us. It seems somebody has captured a point. I'm actually not sure which one it was. I'm pretty sure it's these guys here. I'm launching another off map, since we're also still trying to take the point. But instead of just pushing blindly, we're trying to make him come to us. We're going to try to wipe him out as much as we can, and then we're going to push. A decent strategy that I found out works, especially when you're up against larger numbers, especially when you're outnumbered. Starting to run out of ammo since our vehicles have been firing non-stop, scoring multiple kills. He ran into the tree line, took a lot of damage from the tanks here, got through it, thought that there wasn't anybody waiting here, but we had to rebuild up our infantry as we had a second line. And I'll always say the most important thing is to have one or two lines. Never just have one thin line. Have 1, 2, 3. More importantly, especially when you want to deal with something like this, when they're attacking you with multiple numbers. We have the small line here that's actually collapsing, but we're actually able to put good support and launch a limited attack. Our teammate here has also put his thugs and is doing some fire control on the road, which is giving us some assistance, while our guys over here are just getting devastated and they're just completely outnumbered. So we're going to put our infantry here to defend, so there's no major breakthrough. And he's sending some tankettes. I'm pretty sure he was sending them to make sure our tanks fired on them, and he tried to take out our Firefly, but we were able to take out that Firefly anyway. And we still had these 2 Panthers in reserve in case of anything. Starts bringing up more Fireflies and Cromwells. The Fireflies are the only dangerous tanks that we're dealing with. Takes out a Panzer. We bring our Panthers up to deal with them. And we take out that vehicle over there. And we bring these tanks in, because now we're going to counterattack. We're in desperate need of a supply vehicle. We take out the Firefly, and it's just 2 Cromwells, and we have Panthers. So things don't turn out pretty well for him. We decide to take out these vehicles that also been causing a headache here on the right, and his attack here has been completely blunted due to the fact that he never expected us to have a second line here and are having our Panthers in reserve, and these Panthers basically just were enough of a punch that we're able to also hold this flank and hold them off here too at the same time. And with a good placed artillery strike, we're able to counterattack. So as you can see, we've been changing this forest multiple times, I mean. So it's changed hands quite a few times. They still have fire support coming from that hill over there, or at least from here. And it's still causing enough damage to keep us pinned in this area. So it's not like we can just push through there. And the match also isn't one-sided. We expected another artillery strike, so we moved our units behind the forest. And this is just basically letting him lure himself in and come forward. As soon as we see them come up, we move our vehicles in. We know we got the control here. All we have to do is wait. It's just a bunch of Stuarts. Nothing very dangerous. Come on out. And then we go ahead and hit the ambush. And this is why also the smoke screen didn't work. Because since he expected them just to stay here, it kind of became irrelevant. Now, he was able to blunt them here as soon as he found out that they had moved up. But we had knocked out his last Stuart tank. And they weren't going to be a threat anyway. This AT gun is still dangerous. Knocks out a Panther. Devastating loss for us. It's got another AT gun up there too. We have to be very careful. We don't want to lose too many more. And so far they've been the most crucial element of our defense. The Panthers and the Tiger and the Stug. So losing any of these vehicles is it's a big deal. Because it could cause a complete crack, and that could cause an entire collapse of our front. Especially now in a tight game like this, it would be irresponsible. So we have to be very smart how we push, how we attack, and how we defend. Still bringing up Fireflies. We're attacking the forest again. We're able to make it through thanks to those Panther tanks. Even though it cost us one, we're able to take back the small little piece of forest that we controlled. And we can do some supportive fire over here. He's trying to bring up the Firefly in range by covering here. But we still have this Panther tank here. The Firefly is almost completely outmatched by the Panther tank. Especially with a commander. Scored another kill. He brings up some anti-air. We have just a complete graveyard of his vehicles. And so far our defense has been pretty well. But on other fronts, things look a little different. There's a very active push all along the front, especially on the right and the center. Despite us holding, it's very obvious that they have the advantage overall in the entire match. And it's starting to show now. So we're bringing some supplies because these guys have honestly been holding this entire spot for the last maybe 30-40 minutes. I might be exaggerating on that. Maybe 30 minutes. The other Panther tank was also destroyed at some point. He's put some of his lower class units like these CV-33s on his flank, and they've been brutally effective against our infantry. And with limited time left, we wanted to launch an attack until we noticed there was another Firefly coming up and more units. Now we're launching consistent artillery strikes. These guys are completely out. Trying to stop this push again, because we're on the verge of losing the forest again. And that's where he's been superior to me, is in this one aspect here, because I didn't have enough units to push here. I had a Panther on the flank and an anti-aircraft gun, but I didn't want to risk the push it here with the elevation of the hill. It's just better to keep it on the defensive here and cover this entire road and cover this side here. And give these guys some fire support. He's bringing up still the Firefly. He's being engaged by the Panther. It hasn't even made it to the Tiger tank. And this is why this tank was effective here. Because it can just score kills from this specific area here. Because it's got a nice view of the road. So we got a 1, 2, 3 kill zones. And despite being in complete flat land too. And it's all because we control this tree line here. He's moving up his tankette. But it's under fire control of our Panzer IV. And it is knocked out. Not a big win, but I guess we put it out. And he's bringing up some of these cool little Lloyd carriers. One gets knocked out. He's got an armored vehicle, a Cromwell in the forest. And we're still trying to defeat these AT guns. He's firing some smoke screen to keep this entire line covered. And he takes the forest again. Securing his right flank and bringing their control very close to the road. So we send the next wave in. Since we're going to be stubborn and we're going to try to contest this as much as we can. Because we need this in order to push on this side. And we also need to push forward. So we have to attack on 2 separate sides. It's risky with the hill like this, but we're going to have to, with the time being what it is now, we have to risk it. So the last bit of our ammo on our artillery guns, on our mortars. We're going to try to suppress this and push once again right back into this patch again. And we have to push it forward. So we're launching a two-prong attack right now. He brings up his reconnaissance plane, so he already kind of knows what's going on. He has an idea that these guys are coming out. The entire platoon is attacking this point, and he responds as we do, as we do as well. And they're already under heavy fire. We're getting ready to launch a mortar strike over here. And as our AT gun, which is being resupplied by one of our allies. Not AT gun, I mean our howitzer. That was dumb of me, honestly. Yeah, I can't believe I just mixed them up. And what we want to do is just flush them out. Because we could take out those Cromwells as soon as they're out in the open. They're somewhat effective inside the woods. But as soon as they're out in the open, they're completely overmatched. And we're still trying to push to capture that point. With the timer winding down, we're hoping it doesn't defy us. And that Cromwell's still doing somewhat fire support. We're able to escape its range. And our infantry is now moving forward through an entire graveyard of just rusting, burnout vehicles. an effective hit, pinning those guys down. But we still have one squad moving forward. He's trying his best to stop him. There isn't enough there to really do much. And we're still pushing over here to the force too. So we're having success on the right, but we're failing here in the center. Try to soften them up. Start ordering some aircraft. Gonna launch an airstrike to see if maybe, you know, their air defenses are a little bit softened up. Which later in the match, we only got 2 minutes, so it's a possibility they've lost a lot of their air units. And as we predicted, they had very low air defenses, so our airstrikes were quite successful. At this point, we would launch an all-out attack, bringing up our Panzers. He has some Cromwells hidden in the woods, and they were quite effective. We take it out. We did lose a Panzer tank. And we bring up more infantry as we're trying to make a last push at the last minute, especially after they had captured this point, which gave us some breathing room, because we were really suffocating with this point being taken and having both players, you know, push up on our right flank. So that honestly freed up some time and freed up some space for us. And we're just trying to capture this point right before the end of the match. That AT gun over there picks off that Panzer. We still have 3 Panzers. And at this point, the only decision we have is to go forward. We don't have another one. We only got less than 50 seconds. And if this point is captured and we capture one more point, we could at least held out for a little bit. I don't think we would hold out that much longer. We get the 16. But once again, those Cromwells in those woods are very effective. We did good on the offense, on the defensive, but our Panzer tanks were just not capable enough to completely clear the area out. And we got 15 seconds, and we need to capture 2 points. Takes out the Panzer, and towards the end of the match, we are defied that point, and he holds on to it. Well, it was an excellent match. We traded about, 2-1, which is really good. And this is probably the best we've ever done on any of our games, honestly, even though it was a loss. And the units, our kills were basically our Tiger tank just had a list of kills. Some of our little Panzer took out 2 vehicles. Panther tanks were pretty active as well. And the losses were mostly infantry and some of the lighter tanks, but some of the big points that he got were the Tiger and the Panthers. Well, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like if you like this type of content. Subscribe if you guys like this type of stuff. We're going to be making videos every single day. 10v10 matches. We're going to be exploring a couple more decks and everything. I hope you guys stay tuned. Have a good one, guys.